We need to talk about what actually happens in your brain when financial stress meets food choices, because this is where a lot of people unknowingly sabotage themselves in a way that makes everything worse. The neuroscience here is straightforward but brutal. When you're stressed about money, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis activates, releasing cortisol. Elevated cortisol does two things simultaneously. It increases cravings for high-calorie, high-fat, high-sugar foods, and it promotes fat storage, particularly around your abdomen. This isn't weakness. This is your stress response system trying to protect you from what it perceives as potential starvation by making energy-dense foods irresistible. Here's where it gets worse. Those cheap processed foods you buy when stressed? They create a brief dopamine spike, which your brain interprets as relief from the stress. But the nutritional void in these foods means your body still signals hunger at the cellular level because it's not getting actual nutrients. So you eat more, feel guilty, stress increases, cortisol goes higher, and the cycle intensifies. The behavioral economics research shows something fascinating. People under financial stress consistently make present bias decisions with food. You choose the immediate reward of a cheap burger over the delayed benefit of cooking beans and rice, even though you rationally know the latter is better for both your budget and health. This is called temporal discounting, and poverty intensifies it because when survival feels uncertain, your brain prioritizes immediate needs over future benefits. Breaking this cycle requires understanding that it's fundamentally a stress problem, not a willpower problem. The implementation strategy starts with meal planning, but not for the reason most people think. Planning meals in advance literally reduces the cognitive load on your prefrontal cortex. When you've already decided what you're eating, you're not making that decision at 6 p.m. when you're exhausted, hungry, and cortisol is highest. Research shows decision fatigue peaks in the evening, which is exactly when most people make their worst food choices. There's also compelling evidence about cooking versus buying processed foods from a neurochemical perspective. When you cook, even simple cooking, you engage your hands and focus attention on a tangible task. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, literally counteracting the stress response. Plus, there's a documented dopamine release from creating something, which replaces the dopamine you were getting from eating junk food. The 3-day reset using whole foods works because it takes about 72 hours for your taste receptors to recalibrate. Processed foods are engineered to hit what's called the bliss point, combining salt, sugar, and fat in ratios that overwhelm natural food preferences. After 3 days without that artificial stimulation, real food starts tasting good again. An apple actually tastes sweet. Nuts taste rich and satisfying. Here's what I want you to understand. Cognitive reframing is critical. When you think, I can't afford healthy food, you're operating from scarcity and deprivation. When you reframe to, I'm choosing to invest my limited resources strategically, you activate different neural pathways associated with empowerment and agency. The research on locus of control shows this shift significantly impacts both stress levels and follow-through on health behaviors. The mindfulness piece before grocery shopping works because it creates a pause between impulse and action. 3 deep breaths before entering a store reduces impulsive purchases by about 30% according to behavioral studies, and those impulsive purchases are usually the expensive, nutritionally empty ones marketed at checkout.